All right, guys, good day. I hope you're well. Listen, tight muscles. What are they? Why do they occur? All right. Most people, when they think of tight muscles, okay, because it's what we've been told, is that the muscle gets tight, so I need to stretch it. Okay. That's not necessarily true. All right. The more I observe, the more I look at people, the more I test things on myself. A lot of times it doesn't have to do with so much I'm tight, so I need to go stretch it. I'm tight for either two different reasons. Okay, one is the main thing is it's a protection thing. All right, the body protects itself automatically, naturally. All right, if it feels like you're doing something that it can't handle, it's going to try to go into protection mode, and this usually is a sign that you're going to get hurt later on if you don't fix this. Okay, this is what most people miss. Most people who we say are tight, that's why they got hurt. It's not so much they're tight because, oh, I don't stretch, I don't do that stuff. It's actually a symptom of usually weakness somewhere, which is the most time what goes on. Or, like I said, it's a protection mode, that there's something is wrong. You got to figure it out. Okay? So most people get tight usually in two areas. All right? Typically the hamstrings. All right? Most people always say, man, my hammies are real tight. Okay? Most of the time, then what I find out is they're weak. Okay? Hamstrings are weak. Now, I don't like to isolate really muscles to work them, but there's two that I will do, and I really hammer them home because I think we just don't get enough of them because of how we stand and things like that. So I'm going to get into that to another later video. But the hamstrings are one thing that I definitely isolate. I do a lot of hamstring work with my athletes. I think it's very important just because of how weak they are. Now we'll go through full body stuff, also work them, but I do a lot of isolation. The other area are the glutes. I think the glutes are so weak on human beings. And I know people say, well, you shouldn't have to. We don't walk. So I got to combat what's going on with these schools, that these kids are in school all day long. Adults are, sitting behind a desk, and then, and now they're at home because they work from home. So they don't even go out then, So we're in a problem. So I will isolate those two areas if there's, when it comes to strengthening, because I think it's a major problem. But getting back to the tightness is a sign that there's something weak going on. So what do you got to do? You got to find where the weakness is and then attack. Now, here's the issue. Just because I'm tight in a certain area doesn't mean that's always the problem. Now, with the hamstrings, a lot of times it is. They're just weak. So if people have weak hamstrings, they become tight because they go into protection mode because the quads become so strong compared to the hamstrings. So your body's trying to compensate and figure out what's wrong. Okay? So don't just go into something like saying, hey, I got to stretch. What you got to look at is, how's my movement? How am I moving when I walk? So I have people that come in, typically some of my older clientele, that have very short gait patterns. They've shortened them up so much because their body is going under so much protection mode. All right? So what happens is everything becomes short. So you say, well, I need to stretch it out. Not necessarily. You got to stretch it out in a different way than what we're usually used to. Most people say static stretch. No. You got to move differently. You got to actually get some gait movement. So you got to elongate your gait. All right. Does it take time? Yes. Everybody, you got to remember, the body goes back to where it feels comfortable. So if I'm tight and it feels comfortable in this region, and even though you say, well, it doesn't feel comfortable to me, it doesn't matter. It's what the body feels. Okay. And that's where you got to get the consciousness of the mind and the body working together. And that's what most people don't do. Most trainers, most people out there, most human beings never understand how important it is to work this with this. Remember, the three things I always talk about: spiritual, mental, and physical. If you have all three in place, you getting hurt are very slim. And if you do get hurt, you can usually figure out what's wrong to fix it. But usually if there's something off, you usually figure it out before you get to that point. And that's why all three are important. But even if you work on the mind and you can understand how the mind works, okay, and how it functions with the body, you can accomplish a lot of great things. And most people won't teach you that. Like, I have a lot of athletes that have to come in and I have to teach them how to actually feel certain muscles working and feel them firing, because they don't do it. And then they wonder why they're broken down, why they hurt, why all this, and the constant pounding they're taking. It's because certain muscles aren't working properly. So then other muscles become tight and all this kind of stuff, and then we have all kind of problems. So looking at tight muscles, don't just think, well, I got to stretch them. Because many times when you stretch it, it doesn't get any better. I'll be honest with you. You have to elongate your movement, so that's a stretching. I understand that. But it's more of a movement pattern. I need to change my movement. And then I got to figure out, okay, I'm weak in these areas. So let me start strengthening, and then watch what happens. Then the body all of a sudden starts to feel like, okay, I can feel comfortable in a more elongated position, so I don't need to be so guarded anymore. But you have to start thinking differently. Start thinking how the body works, not how we've been told it works, how it actually works. Now you're going to say, well, you don't have any scientific basis. The basis is all based on my mind working with my body. And hopefully we all understand that. That's how it works. Okay? But the spirit is the main part. You have to understand that the spirit, understand that the strengthening of the spirit at the bottom is where we get to. And then the mind and then the physical. Okay? But don't just go stretch so-called tight muscles. All right? Look at what you can do to strengthen the muscles, and then also look at your movement patterns. All right? And I'm going to talk about, like I said, why I think a lot of things are happening, especially with the hamstrings, why they're so weak compared to the quads, and why our low back stinks, and why our mid back stuff, all this stuff. I'm going to start talking about some of this stuff, all right? Some of my later videos. But reach out. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys are having issues, reach out. Let me help you. All right? I hate to see people in pain. All right? I told you my goal is to get everybody living to about 120, disease and pain-free. We can do it. It's just going to take a lot of work. Have yourself a blessed day.